Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. I would just like to say thank you to Mason Rose, the sales and communication agency that represents some of the finest hotels around the world, for partnering with Travel Secrets, the podcast. Today, my guest is the wonderful Patrick Cox, the Canadian-British legendary shoe designer, fashion designer, famed for his innovative wannabe loafers. Were they called wannabes?
Wannabe, yes.
Everyone wanted one.
Yes.
And I certainly had my fair share of them. And your amazing collaborations with fantastic designers such as Vivienne Westwood, and the list goes on and on and on. You had a huge success in the fashion world, and then you have decided to start again. You have so many amazing stories. When we met, I could not get enough of them, so I cannot wait to hear your travel tales. Welcome, lovely Patrick.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
Before we get into your travel secrets, just perhaps you can tell us all a bit about yourself and how travel has impacted the person that you've become.
So, I'm 62 years old, originally from Canada. I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, and travel has been beyond important in my life because it seems that's all I've ever done practically since birth. At the age of 2, my parents dragged me, we moved to Lagos, Nigeria. We lived in Lagos 1965 to 1968. Mm-hmm. Then we moved to Chad for less than a year. I don't really know where we lived because all the names were French and colonial. I think we lived in Fort Archambault, which I'm not quite sure. I think it's in Gemma now. It's kind of vague memory that I have of it. It was a long time ago. Then we moved back to Canada. Then my father took a posting that was supposed to last 7 years, and we moved to Cameroon. And after a year in Cameroon, me, my mother, and my brother came back, and he stayed, and that was the divorce. We didn't really see my father for quite a long time after that. I lived in Edmonton. Much to my chagrin, that's where my mother took me back to till the age of 16. I moved out of the house at 16, and at the age of 17, I moved to Toronto. I lived in Toronto for 2 years, and at the age of 20, I moved to London to attend Cordwainers College, which is where I learned the craft of shoemaking. And then I launched myself into my career. Within 2 years of graduating from college in 1985, I started my career, and then I just traveled nonstop and haven't really stopped since then.
So was your father in the army, or?
No, my father was a linguist. He studied and taught languages. We weren't diplomats, but you can imagine the expat community in Chad in 1969 wasn't very big. So we hung out with the diplomatic crowd and everything because that was with the expat community in the country, but we weren't diplomats, no. So
how interesting. My goodness, that really is a very traveled background when you were young. Amazing.
Well, I mean, if you think of most Canadians, certainly from the Western province of Alberta, never really leave the province half their life. You know, they probably have their first school trip, across the border into Montana to go skiing or, whatever when we came back from Cameroon, one of the teachers called my mum in and said, Patrick's a fantasist. He talks about elephants and hippos and giraffes. And she's like, yeah, no, they were at the end of the road. He's not making it up.
He really did see that.
He did leave that. I can show you videos or like Hyatt film, whatever it was back then. And the teacher had to kind of go, he's not crazy, that kid at the back of the class that keeps spouting off things.
That's amazing.
It was definitely an interesting childhood to have. I was always raised around adults because we moved so often. And my father's quite a left-leaning, long-haired hippie with an earring and flare jeans, and he listened to the Beatles and Santana and the Rolling Stones and all that. So he always taught us, just because someone's older than you doesn't mean they're right. So that went down either really well or like a ton of bricks at school and with my teachers and whatever. People who were there to discipline me. I've always had a more than healthy disrespect for authority instilled.
Well, I
by
love
my
the
father.
fact that when you went to your college, you hated it, didn't you?
I'm tonight giving a commencement speech for the graduation. It's the first time I'll be back there in 40 years. It was a rough ride. It was a different college. Now it's a world-leading college. It's, but it was the 80s. It was 83 to 85. I was there. It was full-on Thatcherism, hard times. Hackney was not the fabulous hipster central that it is now. It was bleak as fuck back then. And the course was bleak as fuck back then. So I spent most of my time in nightclubs, which is where I met John Galliano and Vivienne Westwood and all the people I eventually worked with, and just tried to block out the experience of being at Cordwainers. I took what I needed from the course. But like when I did the shoes for Vivienne Westwood in Paris in my first year of college, they threatened to fail me because I'd missed school. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? My career's set. I just did the shoes for Vivienne Westwood in Paris. And like, but you didn't attend classes. I was like, oh, whatever.
Do you know what? Thank goodness you didn't. Because didn't you do the Vivienne Westwood show where Naomi Campbell fell off the shoes?
No, I get credited for that one all the time.
I did. That wasn't.
No. So when I worked for Vivienne, I introduced her to doing platforms. And I did what she wanted, and then I did something purely on my own brief, my own spec. I don't know why. I was like 21 and I'm with my goddess, but I decided, I'm going to make some of my own shoes. And I gave 3 pairs of gold platforms. They had about that big of a platform at the back and that much at the front. And I remember delivering them to her hotel room the night before the show, and she's looking at everything, and then she unpacked the gold platforms and she went, ugh, platforms. How 70s, and just push them to the side. It's her show, so she gets to decide. But I was quite crestfallen. But then somehow through confusion backstage, they ended up going on the runway. So that was a big moment for me. And then she did a rocking horse platform. I don't know if you ever remember that one. And I was involved in some of the original drawing of that. And then she went into like platform mania. But people always give me credit for the Naomi thing. And I always go, no, I had nothing to do with me. It wasn't my fault that she fell off her shoes. I don't want whatever shoe designer was working at Vivienne to think I'm stealing their glory. That was them.
That's so funny. But thank goodness you didn't graduate at that college, because you really had an unbelievable career in fashion and shoes before you went to the next stage, which we'll hear all about. But what happened with the shoe business?
What went wrong or what went right?
Well, give us just a little bit of a taste of both.
So I had the Patrick Cox brand, which was basically a glorified hobby from 85 to 93. We sold 3,000 pairs a season. No store really invested in me. They, buy, and if I didn't deliver because I went bust or whatever, it didn't really hurt their profit, So they always bought the same things. I ended up being known for being black and brown clunky shoes because my shoes were made in England in the beginning, and that's all I could get done. And then I noticed that we sold less in the summer than in the winter because my shoes were very British looking. Even though I would move my production to Italy in 1988, they still were quite heavy footwear because that's what I liked. And so I started, what can I do that's lighter weight? So I started to notice the Paninati, you know who the Paninati, I noticed that they wore loafers, and I was kind of into mod, and I was thinking, and I was into Pee Wee Herman because he wore the white loafers with everything. So I had this whole bunch of ideas that culminated in me designing a loafer, which has a softer sole and it's more summery. And I had to convince the factory we were working with at the time that we would do this for years because for boring reasons, a tubular loafer construction is very expensive to do the patterns. So I did that and we sold well, but for the first time in my career, something happened. The second season, we sold more. And then the third season, we sold even more. And that was very unusual because I was such window dressing it. We'd sold, and then you threw out the design, never looked at it again. And then an Italian company started to copy me. And then the Italian company reached out to me and said, would you work for us? And I said, well, you're already copying my best-selling thing. How about we make the copy become the original? I work with you, because they had better prices and better quality because they specialized in loafers. And that was the birth of Wannabe. The name came because it was the time of diffusion lines when everybody was doing Gautier Junior and CK1 and DKNY, So my idea is you're a wannabe. You want to be someone who spends, I think my mainline shoes were 250 pounds at that point, but you're not. You're buying the wannabes, and the wannabes, I think they started at 80 pounds back when we launched.
I think that's what I bought.
And then it just exploded. We set a target of, I think 10,000 pairs the first season, and we sold 20. And within 13 months, we were selling 250,000 pairs a season. And then we went to over 1 million pairs a season. And then, the 90s and Britpop. And I was kind of like the official shoe of Britain, it seemed, for a while there.
That's amazing.
So that all got bigger and bigger and better and better and bigger and bigger. And then the fashion industry changed. All of a sudden, these super groups appeared, the Louis Vuitton group, the Gucci group, the Prada group. And also the playing field was very uneven. Before, my competition was Mr. Clergerie, Mr. Stéphane Killian, Mr. Manolo Blahnik. It was a named individual, Miss Mode Frison. But all of a sudden, it was conglomerates with endless budgets. And so I was opening 1 or 2 stores a year. We had stores all over Asia. We had 20 stores in Japan. We had New York, London, Paris, blah, blah, blah. And then someone started to say, if you had investment and if you just took on some debt, you could leverage it and you could open 30 stores a year like Prada, this are doing and everything. And, I made that decision. I can't blame it on anyone else. I listened to that old siren song and thought, let's go for growth. And got the wrong people in, and it didn't work at all. And very quickly, by 2007, I was out of my own company and I'd lost my name and the company. I went through...
I'm very pleased that you're back in fashion, which we will hear about with your new travel journey.
Yes.
And we're going to get into your travel secrets. And anyone who listens to this every week will know that there's 6 questions, and I always ask in the same order. But with you, I'm going to slightly different.
Okay.
Change it up. Because you've never been the same person that goes through
rule breaker.
Exactly.
Rule breaker.
So we are going to start with your most unexpected travel experience. What is your most unexpected travel experience?
My most unexpected travel experience, and sadly I don't think anyone can really repeat this, is one of my great friends is Damien Aspinall, who has the Aspinall Foundation that is all involved with animal conservation, specifically tigers, gorillas, and lions. That's what he mainly supports. The Aspinall Foundation has 500,000 acres of virgin rainforest in the Gabon in Africa, and that is where Damien and his family and the foundation have been reintroducing captive raised gorillas from Africa and from Kent, and flying them over there and reintroducing them to the wild. So I went there. I was lucky enough to go there 3 times in I think 2008, 2007, and maybe like 2010 or something like that. I can't remember the exact times. And I would say the first 2 trips are the 2 most important events in my entire life.
Really?
Yeah. Damien didn't really prepare us for what we were going to see. I mean, I kind of imagined it would be like gorillas in the mist with binoculars, and they're way over there, the gorillas. No. So the humans are on one side of the river, the Ibiza River, and the gorillas on the other side of the river. You have to fly, being travel show. We travel from London to Paris, Paris to Libreville, Libreville to Franceville. Then you get in a convoy of jeeps which drive off-road for about 6 hours. Then you get on a boat on the Impassa, M-P-A-S-S-A river, and travel upriver for several hours. They also have a guy on a jet ski next to you because a lot of trees have fallen and they have to chainsaw the trees out of the way so you can keep going up the river. You have to kind of be in the middle of nowhere. I think it's the Bateki plateau in order for there not to be humans to want to kill the animals. So you are literally in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, humans on one side, gorillas on the other side. The gorillas have endless land to go look through. They have trackers that live with them all the time, local African people that live with them all the time. So in the morning you get ready and then you cross the river and then you have to walk and walk and walk, sometimes for hours, until the trackers tell you where the gorillas have nested overnight. It's intense rainforest on either side of the river, and then it becomes savanna. So we'd been walking for a couple hours and we hadn't seen anything. And then Damien turns to me and goes, "Get down." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "Gorillas don't like it if you're taller than them." I went, "What does that mean?" And I turn around and there's like 14 gorillas coming towards us. I was like, "Oh, it's like this. They're not going to be way over there. They're going to be here." So we sat down, and Damien had told us before. He said a couple of things which now all made sense, but at the time it didn't make sense. He said, "Interact or distract." He said, "If you think you're getting on a good vibe with one of the gorillas, look it in its eyes, and then just get ready for whatever unfolds, because there's going to be something." And he said, "But if something is too heavy for you and you don't know, just get a pencil or a stick or something and just go like this in the dirt." And the gorillas go like this. Oh, it's really quite amazing. Really? They can be running at you in the middle of attack. You get a stick, go like that. And they go, "Oh." Or they just become hypnotized by what you're doing. And then he did say to us, he said, "Gorillas really like nipples and belly buttons." Should have been a clue, but they was like, he said, and I'm like, "What does that mean?" So I had gone to Holland & Holland, the outfitters, to get a safari suit given to me, made for me. They gave it to me in the end because I thought I might do a little bit of press. This was 2008. It was before Instagram, social media, and all that. So I'm wearing this lovely outfit. One by one, the gorillas come up and meet you. First of all, Marco, the silverback that was raised in the UK, he comes up to you and he's there. Oh my God. Huge teeth. He just goes, And he just breathes in your fear, your vibe, whatever. And he looked at me and he was walking in a straight line. He just pushed me and kept walking in a straight line, like out of my way. And then the females come up to you in order of seniority. Wow. And then the kids will come up to you. So that was cool. We met the troupe, whatever a group of gorillas called, a band. And then we're sitting on the side and this one female comes up to me and just goes, whoosh, and tears my shirt open and starts sucking on this nipple. And then this other female gorilla comes around here and starts sucking on this nipple. And I'm going, what the hell? And everyone's like, this is new. And I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, nothing. And then this baby gorilla, which was about 2, comes over and sits on me. I'm laying like this and starts licking my belly button. And I'm going, what the hell is going on? And Damien's going, I've never seen this before. And then Marco was off to the side, the silverback going, And then he just came over and it's all silent, but all of a sudden everybody was screaming because they felt his anger. And he came over and bit me on the thigh. He could have taken my leg off easily, but it was just a warning bite. But in the pandemonium, fight or flight, the 2 females left. The little baby did a giant steaming poo on me and then ran away. So I'm laying there going, and everybody's just silent. And I'm looking down and my nipples are covered in saliva. I'm covered in saliva here. And I've got a steaming gorilla poo on my belly button. And I'm like, that was the best thing of my entire life. And everyone just burst out laughing. They couldn't believe that I took it so well. But
that's a very unexpected.
That was my close encounter with a gorilla troop.
Oh my goodness, that's extraordinary, isn't it?
It was wild.
And did it hurt where he bit you?
Well, the crazy thing is when I told my UK doctor I was going to the Gabon, he gets out his book and flips it. He goes, of course you are. According to the World Health Organization, it's the most dangerous place in the world. He goes, dengue fever, this, that. And he goes, and there's a theory that Ebola comes from primates. You won't be involved with primates, will you? I went, no, not at all. And then when I got back to London, I went to the doctor and I took off my shirt. He's like, what the hell is that? I went, gorilla bites. They were all over me. Because the little gorillas that play with you mostly, they've got the sharpest teeth. So when they give you a warning bite to say, look out, that gorilla is getting mad at you, it actually hurts and it actually breaks the skin. So I had gorilla bites all over me. And my doctor's like, oh my God, Ebola, but I was totally fine.
You lived to survive the tale.
Yeah. And went back again and had, another incredible adventure.
That's incredible.
Wow. We had to, after the interaction with the gorillas, we had to get back to the river and get on the boats. Well, Marco was mad at me.
Marco the silverback.
Marco the silverback. So he kept pushing trees down on us. So it took us about 2 hours to walk 10 minutes because every time we got near the river, he'd push another tree and storm towards us. And it was always me. I'm like, why am I the one? Why am I the one getting in trouble? But it's because his females had paid so much attention to me. He was annoyed with me.
But you went back again the next year.
Well, we did 5 days there and then... and it was just so beautiful. And the last day, Damien said, do not draw attention to the fact this is the last day. And I'm like, okay. And he turns around and I've got a gorilla on this leg screaming its head off, holding on to me. I've got a gorilla on this leg screaming its head off. I've got another one on my back. He goes, I told you not to make it a big deal. I didn't do anything.
They just
I didn't even say goodbye. And they were like crying, holding on to me. They didn't want me to go. And I'm like trying to walk with 200 pounds of gorillas attached to me to walk towards the water.
It's just such an amazing story.
The trackers are trying to pull them off me. And it was a very beautiful, surreal experience.
That's amazing. God, how fantastic. What a brilliant start. Wow. Let's go into your most overrated travel experience or underrated.
So I'm going to go with underrated. I'm a huge history buff. I've traveled all over the world. I've gone to museums and palaces and art galleries and everything. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, Fred Guyot du Repère, is from a French aristocratic family. One of his ancestors was a bodyguard of Marie Antoinette, and at the storming of Versailles, where the fishmongers' wives carried her away into town, his relative was very badly injured in an antechamber to the room the queen was hiding in. So he has kind of the droit du palais. He kind of has these aristo rights sort of things. So as a present to me, I think about 2011, he organized on Monday, the palace is closed. He organized for me to have a private tour of the palace with the curator. And I mean, the man literally handed me this giant skeleton key. I said, what's that? He goes, the key to the palace, sir. And he said, where would you like to go first? And I went, the toilets. And he was like, you need to go to the toilet? I said, no, I want to go to the toilets. He goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I went, les toilettes, where the word toilet comes
Absolutely.
from. And he's like, I still don't understand what you're talking about. I said, well, I know there is no French royal throne because Louis XIV had a solid silver throne, which was melted down to pay debts. But then the 15th and 16th didn't really have official thrones because they traveled all the time and whatever. It was Napoleon invented a real throne, but there was no proper throne for that period. So I knew that I'd read that they had the unimportant furniture because obviously during the revolution, everything was looted and sold and whatever, but the toilettes weren't deemed very important. So they look like a chair with a strong back that you would pray on, but it's actually a chair with a hole in it. And then on the back on here, there is 2 dishes which have the toilet, and then the fragrance or whatever they would wipe with, whatever. So they took me into this room. The curator's like, wow, visceral.
Most people want to see the Hall of Mirrors, but Patrick wants to go to the toilet.
Visceral history. He goes, you really are going really down to body specifics. I said, well, I want to imagine the moment when Louis XV lost India, lost the US, lost Canada, because we would all be speaking French if that moment in history hadn't happened, because French was the language of the English court even, French was the language of diplomacy everywhere. But in his reign, they lost the battle for supremacy. So I just wanted to imagine Louis XV sitting on the toilet going, fuck, I blew it. Sort of thing.
I really blew that.
And then I was like, what's this other toilet? He goes, oh, that's Madame de Pompadour's toilet. I was like, I'm going to sit on that too. So it was just so amazing to walk around and just say what you wanted to see. And that key opened the door and to wander around. I've been there because when we lived in Africa, we'd go our holidays in Europe rather than going back all the way to Canada. So I've been through every palace in Europe, I think, because of my parents. But I was always under duress and you're a kid and you didn't really want to do it. And then I'm a huge history buff and I've obviously done Versailles, but in a big, huge crowd. So to have my great friend give that present to me was just beautiful.
That's incredible.
So I'd recommend everybody go to Versailles.
Well, actually...
you won't see the toilets. They're in a locked room.
But no, that's such an amazing story. And actually, we look after a hotel in the Palace of Versailles. It's owned by Les Herelles. I don't know if you know it, but it's only got 13 bedrooms. And if you stay there, when the palace closes, you can have a private tour of the Hall of Mirrors, not the toilet.
Okay.
But that just in itself is amazing to be in the Hall of Mirrors with like 6 people.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. And then you can go to Marie Antoinette's private, is it the Orangery?
The Petit Trianon.
The Petit Trianon, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And actually they have the most hilarious thing there, which is you can dress up in the old Marie Antoinette costumes. And I went with my best friend and he's like, no, they wouldn't have one that fitted me, male. So I wanted to wear the woman's dress. So I said, no, we'll look like French and Saunders. I said, we should do it. But actually it was really hilarious. I laughed and laughed. And then in the morning they say, would you like to be woken up like Marie Antoinette was? And I said, yes, of course I would. I didn't know what it was. Le lever. Yeah. So they bring you the almond milk and they bring you whatever it was she had. And then they say, would you like us to run your bath? And they put this stuff. I mean, it's such an experience. It really is. So I recommend anyone does that. Yeah, that's good.
I did not know that.
I did not have the
Probably
key.
Wasn't there in 2011.
No, I did not have the key to have the private tour of Les Toilettes. That is just brilliant. Let's go into food and drink. Food and drink is so important in travel. What do you like eating? Where do you eat? What do you drink? Do you drink? What are your favorite restaurants? Let's just talk about generally food and drink.
Food is beyond important to me. I'm a skinny little fucker, but all I do is eat. My mother used to say I ate 1 meal a day from when I woke up to when I went to bed. I just basically eat all day.
You're so lucky.
Luckily, I have a crazy metabolism, but food is very important to me. I like spice. I like spicy. I like a little bit of weed. So I like traveling, getting very hungry, and then eating a lot, then getting hungry, and then eating a lot. Done that all over the world. But if I think of my most incredible food experience, it would be, do you know the Shinjuku Park Hyatt Hotel in Tokyo?
No, I don't.
It's 3 tower blocks in Shinjuku, and the restaurant, the New York Grill, is on the top floor of one, and then a gym and a swimming pool is on the top floor of another, and you can look into it. And it's so high up, the 52nd floor, that helicopters fly below you. It's so high up that it can be cloudy day in Tokyo and you go up and you end
Above
up
the
on the other
clouds.
side above the clouds. I mean, it's so Blade Runner, all those scenes from Blade Runner. So I was lucky enough to be big in Japan. Because of working for Vivienne Westwood when I was starting my career, and she's a goddess in Japan.
Yeah.
I went to Japan and toured a lot. I did a 3-week tour with a punk band where I went around and gigged with them,
that's very cool.
who are now legendary heroes in England. In Japan. Hiroshi Fujiwara, he's a streetwear guru all over the world, really. So I had all these incredible experiences. And then we signed a deal with Isetan, the most important department store in Japan. And we started to launch licenses. So in Japan, I had watches, sunglasses, jewelry, clothing, handbags, scarves, umbrellas. I mean, I kind of had this whole line of things. So I used to go to Japan 4 times a year for about 20 years. And I always stayed at the Shinjuku Park Hyatt. It's where they filmed Lost in Translation.
Oh, of course I know it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to.
It's a fantastic hotel. And that is so iconic, that film.
Yeah. That was my life.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk to someone, the person would answer for half an hour, he tries to translate, where they go, he said yes. I was like, it took half an hour. Like the translators just cut out whatever was deemed offensive, whatever they didn't want you to know. So after years of work in Japan, I found an Italian Japanese girl that we hired to be a translator, and she would talk to me in Italian so that the translators didn't know what she was saying, because it was the only way of actually having a private meeting because everything was so highly controlled and so staged, managed. And then all of a sudden there was a new person in the room. I thought, I bet he talks Italian, doesn't he? Like, how do you know? I was like, I wonder why you put him in the room. But
That's so funny.
because I stayed there all the time, we used to go up to the top floor and just have the most amazing meals. I still drank alcohol then. They had an amazing wine cellar. I'm a huge meat eater, beef. So they had beef from all over the world. And this is way before restaurants.
Wagyu beef. And
But they, this cut from New Zealand, this cut from here. Now that's kind of standard places in London, the cut, this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
But back then in the 90s, that was really to curate where all the meat came from and everything, and the views. And then they had the jazz bar. Remember, that was a big part of the movie.
The movie, yeah.
Yeah, so I would always have jet lag. So I'd be up at 3 a.m. in Shinjuku or in Harajuku going bowling, listening to Madonna in a bowling alley playing at 3 a.m. because you were just so wide awake you couldn't sleep for the life of you. So that place was just, I really felt, it was the 90s. My whole career was exploding. I really felt like I'd arrived.
And great restaurant, great food.
Yeah.
Very good food.
Great wine.
Do you go to the south of France when you stay with Elton?
At his, but we don't very often leave
Go
the
out
house.
because whenever I'm there, I stay at the Colombe d'Or every summer.
Right.
We go to Le Petit Maison.
Yeah.
And
of
he's
course.
always in there.
Yeah, yes.
So I was going to say, is that one of your
With Nicole.
favourites as well?
Nicole.
With Mad Nicole.
With Mad Nicole.
Gives you a glass of champagne and then drops it. And the waiters are straight behind her, mopping them up. But the most amazing food.
Yes.
Very simple, but very delicious.
And truffles with everything.
And jacket potatoes with pots of caviar thrown on top of it. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. So let's go on to the next travel secret, which is, what is your top travel tip or your best travel secret, which you might not want to tell us?
I mean, there are no more secrets. Everybody does everything. And there's so much, so much is diffused out there. But I guess my travel secret is sleep. Is sleep. If you go on a long distance flight from me, don't expect riveting in conversation, because I get on, I personalize the space all around me. I've got my earplugs, I've got my face mask, and then I always travel. I guess this is my travel tip, with a very, very, very fine cashmere throw. I'm a mouth breather. When I fall asleep, my mouth hangs open. There's nothing worse than walking by with someone with their mouth with drool coming out of their mouth. So I cover myself completely like a dead body, like a shroud in my thin cashmere thing. And I'm under there in my blankie. I can smell my dogs on it because they lay it and everything. And I'm just in heaven. I remember flying to Singapore with someone. And ding, 20 minutes before we landed, I sat up and he was like this. He'd been drinking the whole flight. He goes, I'm never traveling with you again. You slept the whole way. Oh, really great story is I used to go with David and Elton to the Oscars every year. Not to the Oscars ceremony themselves, but to their party. Yeah. And I might have been partying very late the night before I got on the plane. And I got on the plane, BA first class back in the day. And it was all stars, except for me, obviously, in first class. And Angelica Houston went up to David and goes, is he alive? And she goes, I think we should get a mirror. He goes, he's not moved once. And David's like, no, that's Patrick.
He always does
and she's
that.
like, no, he's literally not moved. It's an 11-hour flight from Heathrow to LAX. So they had to calm down. Angelica Houston had to put
Get a
something
mirror.
to prove that I was still alive.
That you weren't dead.
A complete stranger. I've never met her in my life. And she's like, that boy's not moved. And I used to have, all the time, I'd have the stewardesses going, what pill did you take?
Yeah, what
And I was
did
like,
you take?
No. I was like, no, I was
You can just do it.
Yeah, because it was the only place where my phone wouldn't ring.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
You couldn't get online.
And nobody would bug me. And that was so rare because when I ran my company, I worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was always somewhere in the world that was open that had a question or whatever, and I always took it because that was the way I was. I was a workaholic. So in the airplane, it was my Zen moment.
Perfect.
So
Actually, a long flight's perfect for that.
Yeah. And I very rarely eat the food, very rarely have anything to do with anything. They're like, you might as well travel in economy. I said, yeah, but I wouldn't be laying in a bed, would I?
And I wouldn't be
like
stretched out. I'd be like this over the person next to me.
Yeah, like you did nothing. I like don't care about the entertainment.
Have
don't
you
care.
got a brand of cashmere wrap that you use, or did you make yourself one?
This is, I think I bought it with Elizabeth in Arun in India at the Oberoi Hotel.
Oh yeah.
There's all those gift shops that sells cashmere.
Yeah.
So it's got a little bit of embroidery on it.
It's not a chatouche.
No, I don't think it's a chatouche. No one's ever stopped me with it or anything.
No.
It certainly
Because they're illegal now, aren't they?
They've been illegal for a long time.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, they've been illegal for a long time. Yeah, but it's just a very fine cashmere blanket. It's in taupe.
Never lose it.
No. I left it on a plane once in
Did
India,
you get it back?
and I ran back across the runway and got back on the plane because you couldn't those days. They wouldn't have as many control, and it was just sitting there stuck in the seat. It was after I got it, the day I got it. I left it in the seat because I forgot about it.
So it was meant to be, and it's got all your doggy smells and everything.
Yeah,
all
it's got
over
holes in it. When I'm sick at home, I wear it around my neck to just keep me, if I keep my neck warm, I feel good. So
Actually, it must have been great going to India with Arun because he was Indian, wasn't he?
Yes.
So he is.
I missed the wedding because I got run over by a car in 2007. I spent several weeks in hospital. So I made it to the English wedding, but I was really unwell and I was on morphine. And then the next day they were all flying to India, and Elizabeth just said, are you sure you can deal with this? We're going to be on elephants, this. I was like, I don't think I can do this. So I missed the Indian wedding. But then like 2 years later, I went out with Elizabeth and Arun and we kind of reenacted. We did Jodhpur and Jaipur, and, we got to see everything where it had been.
Did you love it?
Yeah, I love India. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd really like in my new spiritual self to do a more spiritual trip to India. Because with Arun's, showbiz friends and everything, we're in Mumbai and they're like, this guy's Tom Cruise's India. And I was like, I don't want to meet Tom Cruise. What do I care about India's Tom Cruise? India's Tom Cruise. I was like, means nothing to me.
I want to meet an Indian guru.
Yeah,
please.
I want to go on a trek and I want to go to this and I want to go up the Ganges and I want to do all that sort of stuff. But that's the new me. So it'll take a while for everyone to adjust to that.
So you will do. I want you to tell us the story about miyaki and tuna.
So way back in the day, this has got to be, Tyler Brûlé was my boyfriend 91 to 97. So it's about 95, something like that. I was a really early Aman junkie. I got introduced to the chain by Tyler because he was writing about them. And I went to like almost every single one because I went to Japan 4 times a year. I'd always break it up by stopping somewhere on the way. And so this one Christmas, Tyler and I were at the Amanwana on Moyo Island, the tented one.
Yeah.
Princess Diana had just been there for like a month, like a few weeks before, maybe months before. And because of bad weather on Lombok and in Bali, we were there for 3 weeks. No one really came in, no one really came out. So it was just this community of people that we got to know. And it was really quite beautiful. Before things got vulgar, may I say, in a lot of the luxury travel world, it was a certain type of person that traveled and paid that money that was, I don't know, they were intelligent and open. There was an Australian family that were there that had a child that was neurodivergent, and it was beautiful. We'd say, you guys go, we'll just take care of him, and we'd take him to the beach and play with him and things like that. There was a German, I guess, industrialist husband and wife, and we went tuna fishing out on the boat one day and did deep sea fishing and everything. It was just beautiful. And then we caught all these tuna. that were like 15 kilo or whatever. And we brought them back and then we gave them to the whole resort. There only were about 15 people because nobody could get in. So they were half empty at Christmas. And this Japanese man came up to me and bowed deeply and said, thank you. That was the absolute best sushi I've ever had in my entire life. And it was Isamaki, who I didn't know and he didn't know who I was. It was just a food moment and a gratitude moment. And it was so beautiful.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
And were you meant to be there for 3 weeks or you got marooned there?
We were at least a week longer than what we wanted. But it was magic because we were sitting on the bay side. I don't know if you've been to Moyo Island, but it's not really a beach because it's more like, it's almost like it's on a lake. It's not on the sea, but it's, it's rocky, whatever. There's just so much wildlife. And there was this whale that just kept doing these big breaking and splashes and dives. And all the locals were like, there are no whales here. That whale's got lost. It shouldn't be here. So it was there for a couple of days going back and forth and back and forth. So me being me, I asked one of the locals to take me out to the whale and I jumped over the side into the water.
Like you did with the gorillas?
Yeah. And there was like a 14-foot white manta ray playing with the whale, which we could never see because it was actually underwater. So I'm in the water, my boyfriend's in the boat going, get out of the water. And you couldn't really see anything once you were in the water, but you could feel when the whale went by you because there was a suction, which is quite dangerous because if you get sucked against it, the barnacles can like rip you and everything, which didn't really happen. But I could make out this gigantic manta ray. There was the whale, obviously, you could feel it, the presence in the water and everything. And then they made me get back on the boat and the next day the whale figured its way out or left. Amazing. But it was really beautiful, magical experience that holiday. Probably
Wonderful.
One of my favorite holidays because it had no rhyme or reason. You could sleep, you could do whatever. The hotel had all these plans. They didn't do any of them because there was nothing to do. Yeah.
That's amazing. What a lovely story. And it takes us beautifully onto your most poignant travel memory.
I guess my most poignant memory is going to go back to the Gabon again because it was at a key time. It was 2008. I just lost my brand. I just come out of being in therapy and doing the Hoffman process and all sorts of things. And to just be in the presence of these animals that did not care that you were or used to be Patrick Cox. They just vibed on you by what was in front of you and what you were giving to them that day. A gorilla you got along with really well one day, the next day would completely ignore you. And one would walk by and thump you as it went by because it was annoyed with you because for something you'd done, whatever. It was just what I needed. I was craving connection and reality. And it was just so beautiful, the silence, the way they talk almost telepathically to each other. I guess they're all tiny signals that we don't pick up on. But that to me was really important to me to realize what's important in my life. Because as a child, I was always obsessed with animals and I was going to be a vet. That was it. And then at the age of 15, 16, I discovered disco and drugs.
and your creative
and my life
side.
went another way. And through times in therapy and everything, they talk about the path not taken. And they're like, and I was like, well, I can't really become a vet at 50. It's a little bit late to start that. But it made me realize that that's really super important to me, that animals are a huge part of my life. And I got back to the UK and I got an English bulldog and then I got another English bulldog. And now where I live, I have animals, and where I'm going to go, I hope to open an animal rescue center. So that was an amazing connection. And then there was an eco moment of shame. We had a wildlife photographer with us and we were out and there was a whole bunch of butterflies flying around. And they're doing something called puddling, is where they land and somewhere where there's a lot of minerals and salts. And he said to me, and he goes, you can cheat, which we've done for documentaries. You just need to pee on the ground. He goes, because the air will be covered with butterflies. I went, oh shit. So where we were staying was just shacks on the side of the river. And because you heard the river run all night, you had to pee all the time. And where you went pee was
where the butterflies
were.
No,
it was just a kind of a hole in the ground, but there could be an elephant right there because the bush is so thick you didn't know it. And I got really tired of walking all the way to this hole in the ground. So I started just peeing through the window, out the window, without going anywhere. And he's telling me this story. I'm like, oh shit. I got back to my camp that night and my entire shack was covered in butterflies. My eco shame that I'd been peeing out the window.
Oh, that's so brilliant.
And all these butterflies were like sitting there going, puddling.
Oh, that's hysterical. That whole getting back to nature and finding yourself takes us beautifully onto your travel journey. I would love to hear your travel journey.
So I'm glad you used the word journey because my journey has been an inward journey, and what you're talking about, the changes in my life and everything. So after the demise of my company, I spent about 10 years in the UK trying to figure out what I was doing next. What's next? What's next? What next? There's this saying, life's in 2 acts, and it's about surviving the intermission. And I was very much stuck on the intermission. So in 2017, I picked up everything and moved to Ibiza and started a new life. The only problem is this jerk called Patrick Cox followed me. And I was like, oh, I was doing a geographical. I was trying to run away from my problems, but my problems were me and my problems followed me. And some friends introduced me to psychedelics. And I had an experience smoking bufo, which is toad, which is the secretions of the Sonoran desert toad, which live in Sonora in Mexico. And in these secretions is the strongest psychedelic known to man, which is 5-MeO-DMT. And so I get emotional when I think about it. I had an experience, my breakthrough experience, and it was the most beautiful experience of my entire life. I was an optimist who became a realist, who slid into being a nihilist. And this was the return of being an optimist again. It's the return of seeing there was hope for me, seeing that there was a future. So my journey was inward.
And the toad is now it's extinct, isn't it?
No.
Is it protected?
It's protected. It's protected in Mexico.
Yeah.
Only indigenous people are allowed to touch the toads and milk them. In the milking process, the animal should not be harmed. It should only be done by indigenous people. Unfortunately, it's on the border with the US. It's cartel country. There's all sorts of things. Mexico has a lot of violence and gangs and things like that going on. So unfortunately, that's going on also. There is a pure molecule that was synthesized by humans, by scientists in 1935. And I think that will be the future of the work with this medicine. I took part last year in a psychedelic drug trial at Imperial College London, being administered with the pure molecule 5-MeO-DMT. It has probably the most potential applications of any of the psychedelics because it lasts 15 minutes. So it can work within the parameters of a psychotherapy session or a psychiatric work session where, if you take acid, you're talking like 8 to 10 hours. You're talking mushrooms, you're talking at least 6 hours. MDMA therapy, again and that's why these therapies cost a lot, 20, 30,000 for them. But hopefully with the advances and hopefully with legalization and liberalization of laws and everything, people will be able to do this work with 5-MeO-DMT. But to me, it just changed everything. It was a place of unconditional love, peace, acceptance. And I realized I did have a future, and what I didn't define me. And I could look back with kindness at my past, because before, when people came up to me and would have a Patrick Cox moment, I'd just feel so like a fraud, because I was like, well, I'm a failure. I mean, I lost it, I blew it and everything. And now I can appreciate the great things I did do during that. And then I can get on with doing something else, which is this.
Yes, tell us about this, because obviously with the psychedelics as well as the fashion brand, which we'll talk about, aren't you now doing it for people when they come to you?
Yes.
And you're helping them through that journey.
Yes.
In a very safe environment.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I would call myself a toad facilitator.
Okay.
I work specifically with toad. I don't work with other substances. I don't serve people mushrooms or this or that. I would never call myself a shaman. My teacher, who was Colombian and indigenous, he didn't call himself a shaman. He said shaman is lineage. Shamanage is your father, your grandfather, you this. I worked with him for a year. And then after working with him for a year, doing toad maybe once a month, getting deeper into the medicine, it's like peeling an onion. You go deeper, trying to figure out things in my life. It's like a psychic reboot. It's like unplugging a TV and plugging it back in. So everything you've learned in your life that you've been told by your parents, your teachers, whatever, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're fat, you're thin, you're this, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. All of that drops away. And you see yourself as you really truly are, which is a perfect light being. And it's so liberating to have that moment, to just know that you're not defined by your past and to make peace with that. So I can say to you, in all honesty, despite my sometimes violent childhood, despite all the thing, this moment is perfect. So everything that happened in my life was meant to be and was perfect because it brought me to this moment. That took a long time
But
to me to get over
amazing
the
that you've
anger of
got
losing
there.
my brand, to get over the anger towards my family, to get over the anger of all sorts of things.
That's amazing.
But now I can say that with all honesty, you know, but it's not a panacea. You have to work on it. You have to every day wake up and choose to live in the light. You know, it's not like ding, you're fixed, but it is amazing how in one 15-minute high dose experience, you can
do that.
change everything.
And then you've done the brand around that.
Well, so my teacher, very sadly, he asked me to continue his lineage. He knew he was ill. He had pancreatic cancer and he died at the age of 49 in 2021. And he, on his deathbed, said, "You're not going to be happy until you make peace with your creativity." He said, "I've seen you." He said, "If someone walks up and tries to compliment you or just mentions shoes or clothes, you'd have to walk out of the room." He said, "You're just not interested. You're shut down." And he said, you're not going to be truly happy till you make peace with it. And so that was the birth of what I call my brand, Doors of Perception, which is off the famous Aldous Huxley book, The Doors of Perception, which he wrote on mescaline in the 1940s. And it was the first psychedelic book. And it's all about, the new word for psychedelics is entheogen. Yeah. It's what the legalizing world is trying to use, because psychedelics, the word has a lot of baggage. People think of hippies throwing themselves out of windows and stuff like that. So entheogen comes from the Greek, reveals the God within. So we're not talking about people running around a field in Glastonbury and having a great time, which is all valid, but we're talking about deep, healing, meaningful work in a ceremony situation. Yeah. So that's what I call what I do. I call it entheogenic apparel, feel-good fashion, consciousness-raising clothing. So it's something with a meaning behind it. The whole world seems to be going nuts about psychedelics right now, so that doesn't hurt my message at all. There seems to be a mushroom in almost everything I've ever seen currently, so that doesn't hurt at all. But there's a message behind it. It's about the discussion about mental health and wellness, and that's what the ethos behind the brand is. Everything is sustainable. Everything is embroidered on the island of Ibiza where I live. Because I spent 20 years Monday to Friday in Italy, and I had this gigantic disconnect from my life. And I was just constantly searching for connection through drugs, through this, through that, through whatever. I was just trying to constantly find a way to soothe myself. And now I found it's what I wanted. It's what I thought. It's through animals. It's through nature. It's through connection.
And what apparel have you done? So you've got a lovely T-shirt on.
It started with one sweatshirt, which has 40 eyes on it. It has 40 hours of embroidery to do these 40 eyes. And that was the first thing I started with. Elizabeth Hurley, very kindly, I gave it to her Christmas 2022 as a present. She ran upstairs, took a snap, came back, said, "Put this on Instagram." And I went from like 40 followers to 800 over the 3-4 days of Christmas, because everybody's bored out of their mind at home. And there's a gorgeous picture of Elizabeth Hurley. So click on that, click on that, click on that. So that was very, very kind. It started with that. Then we branched out into like a T-shirt, and then there was like a baseball cap. Now it's kind of a very nice offer, very limited and very curated. But going full circle, I designed the first shoe I've done in almost 10 years.
Oh, amazing.
So I designed a sandal for Doors of Perception. It's called Four Eyes, because I used to be called Four Eyes as a kid as an insult. And it's got 4 of my eye motif on 2 on each foot. So you've got 4 eyes.
I'm going online after this podcast straight away, and I should buy myself a pair. Fantastic.
And they just came out in pink yesterday.
Did they?
Yeah, we're on our 3rd reorder. From nowhere, they're probably my 2nd best-selling item.
Fantastic.
I mean, that's really quite...
And you sell them in Ibiza, do you?
We sell online, direct to consumer, and then we sell to 2 stores in Ibiza. And do you know Estelle Maison? Maison Estelle?
Yeah.
They, tomorrow, probably will receive their first delivery, because they just out of the blue called me up and said, "We love your stuff. Could we carry it for the place in Oxfordshire?"
Yes, Estelle Manor.
And then Scorpios in
Mykonos.
In Mykonos, in the bazaar, the name of the gift shop, is going to be getting delivery in 2 weeks, and then a store in the Hamptons. So I was not going to do wholesale. I was only going to do direct to consumer. Then a couple stores in Ibiza said, wouldn't it be great if someone could try your stuff on? Yeah. So I started to sell to stores in Ibiza. It's gone really, really well. So now I'm expanding it.
So where are you going next, and what's next for you?
So what's next is I'm leaving Ibiza.
Right.
After 8 years, my time in Ibiza is coming to an end. It's been amazing. It's been visceral. It's been real. It's been like a roller coaster. It's been exciting. It's been terrifying. And sometimes you just want to be sick and get off. So I'm at I just want to get off now.
And where are you going?
I'm going full circle. I'm going back to Italy,
Are
where
you?
I worked Monday to Friday for 20 years. I mean, I used to call the place shittily. I hated it so much. My Italian friends called it shittily because they were like, you're right, that's terrible. You're right, that's terrible. There's something about speaking the language. You know, I speak French and Italian fluently. For some reason, in 8 years, my Spanish has just never really taken off. And there's a frustration in that. I want more connection. I want more realness. So, you know, Ibiza does have another side to the island, a more spiritual side, but it is getting more and more flash and more vulgar. I call them the new vulgarians. They seem to be taking over the world, led by Mar-a-Lago. So my idea is to go the other way.
So where in Italy are you going to go?
Probably Sicily.
Lovely.
The brief to the estate agent was, I don't want a neighbor for at least 1 kilometer in every direction. He's like, really? I was like, at least.
And you're going to have a dog sanctuary there?
Animal sanctuary in
animal
general, which I've
sanctuary.
always said. It was one of the things I wanted to do in Ibiza, but Ibiza is just too expensive. So there's a lot of donkeys, there's a lot of cattle, there's, you know, agricultural animals, dogs, cats, everything. So that's what I really want to do. I want the last bit of my life to have a little bit of psychedelic work, have a little bit of work with Doors of Perception, and then to be helping animals.
That sounds absolutely magnificent. And I will come and visit you. And before I let you go, I asked you to bring a photograph.
Yes.
Can you show us the photograph or just tell us about that photograph and how it sums up travel?
It's with a gorilla sitting on my head. So yeah, it's it just, I mean, you can see the look in my eyes. My mum saw another picture, which I couldn't find, with me with a gorilla. She goes, I remember that look. She goes, I remember you as a kid when you'd see a dog on the street or something, you would just become something else, which I'd lost. So yes, it's a gorilla sitting on my head.
Well, I'm sure that this newfound journey has taken you back to who you wanted to be. And I can't wait to watch in anticipation and excitement. And I will come and visit you in Italy.
Yes.
I'm not sure that I'll do the psychedelic journey because I'm terrified by it. But it's very, very interesting. And you have been so interesting. I mean, the most hysterical stories, as I knew they would be, but also very poignant and very exciting. So great. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to see you, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you very much.